If you think that food shortages only occur in poor rural areas, places with few inhabitants, then you might be mistaken. Ask thousands of middle-class people in the US right now, and they will tell you what the reality is. There is indeed a lot of hunger in the United States and the nation's capital. I like to say the capital of the most powerful country in the known universe. We're just feeling the pinch because previously, $100 used to get you a lot of groceries. Now, it doesn't get you as much, obviously, and your bags are less full than before. It's hard to make ends meet, so adding more money into the grocery bills takes away from something else. In recent weeks, the food shelves in many major cities across the United States are starting to become empty. It's no longer just a temporary shortage, but it could be a prolonged disappearance. The affected class is not only the poor but also the middle class, the pillars who once kept America stable, who paid their taxes fully, who believed they would never go hungry. Ironically, they are not poor enough to receive aid nor rich enough to stand firm, and they are falling apart in silence. In this video, let's go through 10 major cities in the United States where the middle class is quietly collapsing. And now, let's start with the first city, Los Angeles. Welcome to Los Angeles, where luxury cars zoom past Uber drivers deciding whether to buy eggs or pay the electric bill. Once a symbol of the American dream, LA is now waking up to a harsh reality: middle-class families quietly struggling to put dinner on the table. Since 2022, food prices here have surged over 30%, outpacing the national average. A dozen eggs can cost more than $9, and fresh vegetables are increasingly rare in budget stores. Discount supermarkets have pulled out of low-income areas, leaving residents with fewer affordable options. In Englewood, an electrician shares his story. "I used to choose salads because they were healthy. Now, I pick instant noodles because they're cheaper." Meanwhile, high-end restaurants downtown continue to thrive, serving $50 salads just blocks away from families splitting cereal boxes and skipping meals. Law's lights still shine, but for many, the city of dreams is fading into a struggle for basic survival. If you think Los Angeles is an outlier, wait until we take you to Chicago, where the middle class is also feeling the squeeze. Chicago, once called the heart of America, but now, for many residents, it feels like a clock running backward, bringing people back to the years they thought they had left behind. Long lines waiting for free food, neighborhoods devoid of stores, and the constant worry: what will we eat tomorrow? It's worth mentioning that not only the poor but even the middle class in Chicago now feel the strain. A trip to the supermarket can make them feel like strangers in their own familiar land. A retired worker living in the South Side area, sitting quietly beside a bag of goods from the Food Relief Center, shared, "I worked as a laborer for nearly 30 years. Now that I'm retired, every week I have to choose: buy medicine or buy meat." As of early 2025, food costs in the Chicago metropolitan area have increased by nearly 35% compared to 2022, according to data from the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis. Meanwhile, the salaries of most office workers, technicians, teachers, etc., have remained almost unchanged for the past 4 years. The worry is evident on the faces of those pushing shopping carts in Target, Walmart, or community supermarkets. They no longer choose what they like but only stop at what they can still afford. Each trip to the market is now a puzzle. That is the silent loss of control for those who once believed they could still make ends meet. When an industrial city like Chicago, which once supported millions of working families, can no longer uphold the value of working to make ends meet, is there anywhere safe left? If you once lived comfortably in Chicago and are now struggling with weekly food expenses, you are not alone. And if you think Chicago is the most alarming city on this list, just wait for the next name. A place where even food has to pass through security barriers, and the residents are gradually losing control over their daily lives: New York City. New York City, the city that never sleeps, is now facing sleepless nights for many residents who worry about where their next meal will come from. In this bustling metropolis, where Wall Street brokers rub shoulders with street vendors, the food crisis has quietly crept into the lives of the middle class. It's not just about missing out on a dinner reservation, it's about missing dinner entirely. In recent years, food prices in New York City have soared by nearly 40%, according to the New York State Department of Labor. Everyday groceries, which were once manageable expenses, have now become calculated choices. Items that once filled the pantry are now sparingly purchased, if at all. One working mother from the Bronx, holding a thin bag of groceries, shared, "We used to buy fresh vegetables every week. Now, it's either canned goods or nothing. Sometimes, my kids don't understand why we can't have their favorite cereal anymore." The iconic bodegas, once known for their affordable sandwiches and daily necessities, have also faced challenges. Rising costs of supplies have forced many to raise prices or cut down on items, directly impacting local communities. Even the famous food trucks, which used to be a budget-friendly option for many office workers, have increased prices to the point where a simple hot dog can cost upwards of $8. For many in New York, the cost of living has become a tightrope walk. People are no longer choosing between eating in or eating out, they're choosing between eating or paying rent. In the midst of luxury dining establishments flourishing in Manhattan, community kitchens and food banks in the outer boroughs are seeing unprecedented demand. The disparity is clearer than ever. One part of the city is dining on filet mignon, while another is stretching a loaf of bread for the week. The city's pace hasn't slowed down, but for many, the hustle has become more of a desperate struggle to maintain their standard of living. A once comfortable middle-class lifestyle now feels like a delicate balance on the edge of falling into hardship. And just when you think New York's struggle is unique, let's head to a city where the middle class is facing not only empty shelves but also the stigma of seeking help: San Francisco. San Francisco, the tech capital of the world, where innovation thrives, but food security plummets. Once seen as a beacon of progress and modern living, San Francisco now faces a silent crisis: middle-class hunger. You might think that in a city known for its tech wealth, hunger would be a distant issue. But the reality is that skyrocketing living costs have left many struggling to afford basic groceries. From 2022 to 2025, food prices in the Bay Area have surged by over 45%. A single carton of milk can cost upwards of $6, and a loaf of bread might set you back $5. People are finding it harder to make healthy choices when the most affordable items are often the least nutritious. One tech support worker, speaking outside a neighborhood Safeway, put it plainly: "It's crazy. I help develop apps for food delivery, but I can't even afford to order from those same services." It's ironic, really. As tech companies continue to generate billions, their employees, especially those in mid-level or support roles, find themselves living paycheck to paycheck. Even families who once enjoyed comfortable lives are cutting back, not just on luxury items, but on essentials. Local food banks report a surge in new visitors, many of whom are professionals who never imagined they would need assistance. A sense of shame often accompanies their visits, but hunger doesn't care about pride. And the question lingers: how did a city with such wealth reach this point? While San Francisco's tech elite dine on gourmet cuisine, the middle class contemplates whether to buy meat this week or rely on pasta and canned soup. The contrast between prosperity and struggle has never been sharper. But San Francisco is not alone. Let's move to another iconic city, where the cost of living is draining the life out of the working class: Seattle. Seattle, a city known for its coffee culture and booming tech industry, but also for its rising inequality. Like San Francisco, Seattle has become a place where economic prosperity for some is overshadowed by the financial struggle of many. The city that gave us global brands like Starbucks and Amazon is now witnessing a quiet collapse of its middle class. In the past 3 years, Seattle's food costs have jumped by nearly 38%. A simple meal at a budget-friendly restaurant can easily exceed $20. Basic groceries, such as dairy, bread, and fresh produce, are increasingly unaffordable. Families who once enjoyed fresh seafood now opt for frozen or canned alternatives. A father of 3 from the Central District shared his struggle: "We used to enjoy fresh salmon on weekends. Now, it's just pasta and whatever's on sale. You see a lot of people around here with good jobs, but they're scraping by." The famous Pike Place Market, a tourist hotspot, is still bustling, but locals are noticeably more cautious with their spending. Many choose to browse rather than buy, eyeing the artisanal goods but opting for cheaper alternatives elsewhere. What's more alarming is that the middle class, once Seattle's backbone, is increasingly pushed toward the outskirts or even out of the city. They are being priced out of their homes, and the idea of buying fresh, healthy food becomes a distant luxury. If you think the situation in Seattle is dire, the next city on our list might surprise you: Detroit. In a city known for its resilience and its history as the epicenter of America's automotive industry, the struggle is real, and it's getting harder to ignore. Detroit, once the heartbeat of American manufacturing, now a city fighting to feed its own. Detroit's story is one of resilience in the face of adversity, but the current food crisis reveals a deeper struggle that's hitting the city's middle class. As manufacturing jobs declined and automation took over, many found themselves clinging to jobs that barely cover the basics. In recent years, food prices in Detroit have climbed by around 30%, a staggering increase for families who are already juggling rent, utilities, and healthcare costs. Basic groceries, like milk, eggs, and fresh produce, are no longer affordable for many households. Detroit native and community activist, Carla Davis, shared her perspective. "It used to be that if you worked hard, you could put food on the table. Now, even with 2 jobs, some families are struggling to eat healthy. Fast food becomes the fallback because it's cheaper, but it's not nourishing. Local supermarkets have reduced hours or even closed, leaving many neighborhoods as food deserts. Residents often rely on dollar stores and convenience shops, where fresh food is scarce, and processed items dominate the shelves." The rise of urban gardening initiatives has been a grassroots response to the crisis, but even these efforts can't meet the growing demand. In a city where community spirit is strong, people are pooling resources, sharing meals, offering home-cooked food to neighbors, and running pop-up food banks. Still, the middle class, once a vital part of Detroit's identity, is being squeezed harder than ever. Detroit's dilemma is clear. How can a city rebuild itself when even the basics of survival are slipping away? From Detroit, we head to a city that's often seen as the capital of comfort and stability: Austin, Texas. Austin, a city known for its live music, vibrant tech scene, and laid-back lifestyle, is now caught in a paradox of prosperity and poverty. As more tech companies establish their bases here, the cost of living has soared, and food prices have followed suit. What used to be an affordable, welcoming city has transformed into a place where the middle class feels increasingly out of place. Since 2023, grocery prices in Austin have increased by nearly 35%. The cost of dining out, even at local food trucks, has surged, making once-loved weekly traditions less frequent. Families who used to enjoy weekend barbecues now find themselves calculating the cost of each ingredient. One Austin resident, a freelance web developer, shared his frustration. "I moved here because it was affordable and had a great vibe. Now I'm working longer hours just to cover basic groceries. It's like the city grew faster than we could keep up." Despite the city's booming economy, food insecurity among the middle class is on the rise. Food pantries, once seen as a resource for the most vulnerable, now serve families who earn just enough to miss out on financial aid but not enough to comfortably make ends meet. Community organizations are stepping in, offering food drives and meal programs specifically targeting the middle-income demographic. Even local restaurants have started "pay what you can" nights, aiming to support those who have been priced out of regular dining. Austin's charm may still be alive, but for many, the city's growth feels like an ever-tightening squeeze. From the tech-friendly hub of Texas, we move on to Chicago, a city that's long been a crossroads of industry and culture but is now at a crossroads of economic disparity. Chicago, the windy city, where the winds of change are blowing through its middle-class neighborhoods. Chicago has always been a city of contrasts, wealthy downtown areas juxtaposed with struggling outer neighborhoods. But today, even the heart of the middle class is feeling the strain as food costs climb relentlessly. Since 2022, food prices in Chicago have increased by nearly 33%. Staples like meat, dairy, and fresh produce are becoming less accessible, pushing families toward cheaper, processed options. Fast food chains are thriving, while local grocers are forced to hike prices just to stay afloat. At a community center in South Chicago, a father of 2 spoke candidly. "We budget every week, but it's getting harder to stretch our money. My kids used to have fresh fruit every day. Now it's maybe twice a week." Chicago's famous deep dish pizzas and hearty meals are becoming occasional treats rather than regular family dinners. Food pantries report a rising number of visitors from middle-income households, people who never thought they'd need assistance. Efforts to support families include community fridges and neighborhood food swaps, but the real challenge is systemic. Wages are not keeping up with inflation, and the cost of living keeps escalating. Chicago's proud working-class roots are being tested. As we move from the Midwest to the sunny coast, let's examine how Los Angeles, home to Hollywood dreams, is grappling with its own food insecurity among the middle class. Los Angeles, the city of glitz and glamour, where behind the Hollywood sign lies a community struggling to put food on the table. Despite being one of the most iconic cities in the world, Los' middle class is increasingly feeling the pressure of food inflation. Rising costs are forcing residents to choose between groceries and housing, with many opting for cheap, unhealthy options simply to get by. Since 2023, food prices in Los Angeles have risen by over 36%. A single trip to the grocery store can cost double what it did just a few years ago. Even farmers' markets, once a budget-friendly option, have seen prices spike, making them less accessible to everyday families. One retail worker from East LA shared her struggle. "My paycheck hasn't changed, but everything else has. I used to cook balanced meals. Now, I make whatever's cheapest." Nonprofit organizations and local churches are stepping in to provide food boxes, but the demand is overwhelming. The disparity between Los' wealthy enclaves and its working neighborhoods has never been starker. How did a city so rich in culture become a place where food is a luxury? From the West Coast, we now head to the heartland of the U.S., a city known for its southern hospitality but also grappling with food insecurity. Atlanta. Atlanta, a city where southern hospitality meets a harsh reality, the rising cost of living. Atlanta's middle class has long been the backbone of its community, families who take pride in their homes, their jobs, and their ability to provide. But as food prices surge, even those with stable incomes are finding it harder to put nutritious meals on the table. Since 2023, the cost of groceries in Atlanta has increased by nearly 30%. Items like chicken, dairy, and fresh vegetables are now luxuries rather than essentials for many. The city's thriving restaurant scene is feeling the impact too, with fewer patrons dining out and local eateries raising prices just to stay afloat. Community volunteer James Everett describes the changing landscape. "It's heartbreaking to see folks who used to donate to food drives now lining up to receive assistance. It's not that they aren't working hard, they just can't keep up." Middle-income families are increasingly turning to food banks that were once primarily serving low-income populations. At the same time, community gardens are becoming lifelines, with residents pooling resources to grow what they can. Despite the challenges, Atlantans are showing resilience. Local groups are organizing cooperative buying clubs, allowing families to purchase in bulk at lower costs. Even so, the struggle continues as the city grapples with balancing growth and affordability. Atlanta's soul remains strong, but its people are fighting for the basics. Leaving Atlanta, we now journey to the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, a city where the tech boom has brought wealth but also widened the gap between comfort and hardship. Seattle, where innovation and inequality coexist, and food insecurity silently grows. Known for its coffee culture and thriving tech industry, Seattle is also becoming known for its growing food insecurity, even among those considered middle class. The cost of living in the city has been on an upward trajectory for years, but recent food price hikes have hit residents harder than expected. Since 2023, food prices in Seattle have surged by over 32%. Fresh produce, seafood, and dairy, once readily available, are now becoming increasingly unaffordable. The impact is especially pronounced in suburban neighborhoods, where housing costs already take up a significant portion of monthly incomes. Software engineer Lydia Tran shares her experience. "We moved here for better job opportunities, but now our grocery budget feels tighter than ever. I never thought we'd be cutting back on meals just to make rent." Tech companies have brought jobs, but not everyone is part of that booming economy. Many Seattle residents work in retail, education, and public service, fields that haven't seen comparable wage increases. The city's famous farmers' markets have also seen declining attendance as prices become prohibitive. To help mitigate the crisis, local nonprofits are setting up mobile markets offering discounted groceries, and community kitchens are popping up to provide meals for those in need. However, the challenge remains. How can a city that symbolizes progress leave so many behind? Seattle's innovation spirit is being tested by a basic human need: access to affordable food. Next, we move down the coast to San Francisco, a city defined by wealth yet plagued by inequality. San Francisco, an iconic city of innovation, wealth, and growing food insecurity. The tech capital of the world has always been a study in contrasts. While billion-dollar companies dominate the skyline, the middle class increasingly finds itself priced out of basic necessities, including food. Since 2023, grocery prices in San Francisco have risen by more than 38%, the highest among major U.S. cities. Even staples like bread and milk have become significantly more expensive. For families living paycheck to paycheck, each trip to the store becomes a balancing act. Single mother and part-time nurse Maria Ramirez explains, "It's a constant struggle. I work full-time, but my paycheck feels smaller every month. We've cut back on fresh produce, it's just too expensive." Food pantries in San Francisco are no longer just for those without jobs. They now cater to professionals and skilled workers who can't make ends meet. Some middle-income households are even participating in food shares, communal kitchens where people cook and eat together to reduce costs. Social media campaigns are also raising awareness of the issue, with influencers highlighting the reality behind the city's gleaming tech scene. Local governments are attempting to step in with subsidies for low-income families, but the question remains: what about the working class caught in between? San Francisco's challenge is clear. Can a city so rich in resources find a way to support those who keep it running? Our final stop takes us to the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., where politics and policy collide with everyday struggles. Washington, D.C., a city where power and policy decisions often overshadow real-life struggles. As the political heart of America, D.C. is home to lawmakers and lobbyists, but it's also where many middle-class families are fighting to maintain a stable life as food prices escalate. Since 2022, the cost of groceries in D.C. has increased by nearly 31%. Basic items like rice, flour, and chicken have all seen significant price hikes, leaving many families to rethink their meal plans. Government worker and father of three, Malik Johnson, voices his frustration. "I work in policy analysis, but no one's analyzing why our families can't afford food. It's hard to see policymakers debate while our bills keep piling up." Middle-income residents are finding themselves left out of federal assistance programs, which are primarily aimed at lower income brackets. As a result, grassroots organizations have stepped up, organizing dollar meals and discounted grocery cooperatives. Efforts are being made to increase urban farming and promote sustainable food practices, but these initiatives take time to make a real impact. Meanwhile, the gap between the city's affluent neighborhoods and working-class areas grows wider. Washington, D.C., where decisions that shape the nation are made, but the realities of survival often go unnoticed. As we've seen, America's food crisis is more than a statistic, it's a human story. From the bustling streets of New York to the tech-driven life of Seattle, middle-class families across the nation are feeling the squeeze. The food insecurity affecting millions is a stark reminder that progress without inclusivity leaves many behind. As communities come together to fight back against rising prices, the question remains: how long can resilience sustain them? This is Real America, bringing you the stories that matter. Until next time, stay informed, stay resilient, and stand together.